Go. Welcome back, Undisputed Boxing. We are here to talk about the news finally dropped. Canelo will be taking on Callum Smith, 19th of December. We did sort of rumor this sort of last week, and obviously it was announced this week. I'm here to discuss it with Rick and other sort of boxing news. So we finally got the announcement. Rick, what do you make of the fight?
Really pleased that it was announced. I mean, there were rumours, but you don't know with Canelo. He can pick who he wants. Plant was in the mix and people like that. So it sounded like it was all done quite last minute as well. It was almost from listening to Matchroom, they were saying that Canelo said, "I'm going to announce something today," and they still hadn't, finalised all the contracts, and so that got rushed through and done. So yeah. Good. I mean, it's the last big fight. It was the last fight of the year, really. I think it's on the 19th in Texas. I think that they're trying to get some fans in for that.
Yeah.
Good payday for Callum Smith. Chance to become a legend. And I'm sure we'll do a prediction near the time, but always good to see a Brit in one of those big fights. Good way to kind of end the year, and just glad it's done, because the whole Canelo thing is drawn on, not just from his disputes, but who's he going to fight, who's he not going to fight. So kind of glad that's sorted now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a really good fight. It's an intriguing fight. Yeah, I mean, I'm just so pleased that it has, we have got a Brit sort of involved in it. And I think, we do a prediction maybe the week before the fight. Maybe watch a bit of the build up and see what's happening sort of nearer the time. I was thinking, sorry, go on.
Go on, you go first.
I was going to say, which do you think is like Callum Smith's biggest win? Because it does feel like this is, I know it's obviously a step up, but I don't know. I'm starting to think it's maybe a bigger step up than I originally thought. Because I think his biggest win on paper is probably George Groves. On paper, but I think that was an over the hill George Groves. He'd had an absolute war with Chris Eubank Jr. and I think, he really just kind of blew him away. And Groves retired after that. And I think John Ryder to date is probably his toughest fight and maybe one of his biggest wins. And he really struggles on, with smaller fighters that kind of like to fight on the inside. But I don't know. As I say, we'll do a breakdown and prediction near at the time.
I think like Groves on paper is. I think I've got this feeling with Smith that he fights the level he's up against.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I don't know. I think we've seen some dodgy performances from him, but when he's not fearful. So
yeah,
we'll see. One of the things I wanted to say on it is over in the UK, it's caused a bit of an issue because DAZN are obviously opening up worldwide now.
Yeah.
And their first worldwide fight is Joshua Pulev. But in the UK, that's on Sky because of Joshua. So the next fight is this one, Canelo and Smith, and that will be on DAZN and not Sky. And so for something like £2 or $1.99, or if you were in somewhere like France for €3 for the month, you'll get the Joshua fight and this fight. It's not bad.
That's amazing. So, amazing value.
Yeah, it's the start of. I mean, the Joshua fights at the moment will stay on Sky, but going forward, it could get a bit touchy. Do you know what I mean? It's Adam Smith's been getting grilled about it, and I think it's hit home now. That's I wouldn't say Smith's been always on Sky. When he did the boxing super series, he that was on I think that was on ITV over here.
The World Boxing Super Series, I think it was actually split. Sometimes it was on ITV and sometimes I think Sky got a couple of the fights.
Yeah. I don't think the Smith, I don't think the I don't think the Groves fight was on Sky. So yeah, I think you're right. I think some might have been split, but yeah, he's not always been on Sky. But they'll be gutted because this would be something they'd really want. But no, the UK rights are with DAZN. So
yeah,
any fight in America now, you might think, are the Sky going to get it?
Yeah.
So but interesting, happy, and we'll do predictions soon.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. What other news have we got?
We got obviously Crawford beat Khan, which we did speak about last week, but there's been quite a lot made of the future with him and Bob Arum, especially with quite an awkward interview afterwards and subsequent interviews with Arum, or both of them actually, and just looking like Arum's done with him now. I think he's lost quite a lot of money on him, and he's almost just saying he's not worth this anymore. We can't, we're not getting the money. We're not making any money from him. In fact, we're losing it. And he's now like won a lot of titles and stuff. So this should be the time that they're kind of cashing in, and they're just not. And I think his contract runs out in October unless he buys himself out of it. So he'll probably have one more fight with him. Now whether that's against Pacquiao, I don't know, and they might make some money off that, but it'd be mainly from the Pacquiao name. But very, very public. Not something you would imagine Matchroom or Bricktop to do, like over public, considering they're still together, which kind of just says the writing's on the wall, I think.
Yeah, I did watch those interviews and some commentary sort of following subsequent to that, and I mean, I think it's in a way it's kind of a good thing, because there isn't really anybody else left for him to fight on on the top rank roster, and I think and I don't really see what discussion there is of where he could go, and maybe you could do it. The move is got to go to PBC. That's where Errol Spence is, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, all the big fights that he will crave are there. I mean, Manny Pacquiao, PBC could still do that. Manny Pacquiao is obviously independent now. And I just think that's the move. I mean, Eddie Hearn and Matchroom are talking about sight, but surely they're going to have the same problems with him. They haven't really got anybody to match him with, and he's 33 now. And it'd be criminal if we don't see that Spence fight. And I just think, why not just go across to PBC, and maybe PBC, I don't know, for whatever reason, don't fancy it, I mean, that's got to do big numbers on pay-per-view, and it would be a great fight. Spence Crawford is one of the fights I would love to see for 2021.
Yeah, I mean, it is the obvious place for him to go, unless he becomes independent himself. But is that the best move for someone like him, who doesn't like over promote himself?
Yeah.
So I think you're right, and there's just I think PBC will want him. I don't think they'll go into the Spence fight straight away. So even if he moves over to them in October, I think they'll have a fight with one of the other ones that you mentioned, and then into the Spence fight. And just on that, Spencer said if that fight happens, it's got to be 60-40, and Crawford said, well, it won't be happening then. So that's getting messy already. I mean, it's a bit over Twitter and social media, which is not the place to do it, but that's what we get nowadays. And I'll be honest, Spence is probably worth the 60. Yeah. And if I was Crawford, I know there's a pride thing and an ego thing, but commercially, Spence has done some big pay-per-views. He's got 50-odd thousand in a stadium. So he probably is the bigger commercial draw. But at the end of the day, this is probably the most these two could make. So would you moan about a certain amount and then lose out on the whole lot? They've got to think about that, and especially like you say, Spence is not. Crawford's not young. Spence is not particularly young, I don't think.
No. There is actually. I think the top 8 or 9 welterweights on BoxRec are all like 30 plus. Like Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, Manny Pacquiao is obviously in his 40s now. There's actually, we're kind of craving for some young blood and young talent in the welterweight division. And you could almost have a tournament with all. I mean, if PBC signed Crawford, you've got Crawford, you've got Spence, you've got Porter, you've got Danny Garcia. I'm probably missing
Thurman.
Keith Thurman, yeah, exactly. Keith Thurman. Throw Manny Pacquiao in there. You could easily get like an 8-man tournament in there. Throw in a couple of prospects, and you could have a mega
Ben and Kelly. The winner of Ben and Kelly.
Maybe. I just don't know if they're. I just don't think they're on that level. Even Josh.
No, but if you got a 6-man tournament, you need 2 others. You probably need a few. You probably need a couple of give me's for the others. So
potentially, yeah. I mean,
these
these
still be good money for what they're normally getting.
Yeah, but there is actually a welterweight you should look out for who I'm getting quite excited about, called Virgil Ortiz, who I believe is with PBC. He's about 22, 23, Mexican American. Looks really, really good. Looks really dangerous, and I think he's stepping up already. You know, I think he's already in the top 15 or top 20. But I think
he on an undercard recently?
Yes, he's been on the one of the PBC shows. Virgil Ortiz, Bergil, I think it is Ortiz. But yeah, he is definitely one to watch.
Other news on the go is the gift that keeps giving, Mr. Wilder.
Your favourite topic, this is.
Oh.
I think you're pretty invested in some of these video, some of these other channels that are either really pro Wilder or anti Wilder. I think it's almost like a subplot to boxing. I think you quite enjoy. But come on, then, tell us what's going on.
Yeah, well, I think it's easy being over this side of the pond to believe everything. It's sometimes good to hear another side of it, but they are so. I mean, the Americans have always been so biased about their boxers. You know what I mean? Even back in the Lewis days and stuff like that, they never rated him, and we're a soft touch, and the Americans rule and all that. And you've got to get behind your boxer, and I think they do it a bit blindly, especially with Wilder, because they don't have anyone else really when it comes to like the heavyweights. So a couple of things, I suppose, that mixed in with that is Fury isn't fighting in December we were originally.
So that's cancelled.
So that's cancelled, and it was they were looking at the European champion for not a high level fight. Now, what's interesting is the reasoning behind that. So we're told. Well, I've not heard from Frank Warren on this yet. So he was saying something's going to be announced last weekend, and then it was announced that it was off. But he was almost going to announce that we're going to announce a fight. So I've not heard from him since. He's gone a bit quiet. So I can't wait for his next interview and when he gets asked the question. Aram's just said Warren couldn't get the money needed, and when he was, when Fury looked at what he normally earns and what he earns now. Because they didn't think they could get the pay-per-view numbers and no crowd and all that. I question that slightly. I think, the fight was, the fight looked like it was on. It seemed to be a late stage. Surely at that stage, they would have worked the numbers out and Fury would have been happy with what he wanted if they were offering contracts to other people.
Yeah.
And then the news comes that there is going to be a court case, or there's going to be someone legal looking at the contract to decide about Wilder Fury 3. Wilder Fury 3. And then suddenly it's this December's cancelled. So if I'm honest, I don't think that it's for commercial reasons. And you listen to Eddie Hearn, he's like, he probably thinks the same as me, but he's going at the angle of, they couldn't get enough money because they're not good promoters, basically. But I actually think the reason is Wilder may have a bit of a case, and therefore they can't fight in December.
Yeah, I think there's probably a number. It sounds like there's not one reason, but a number of factors that maybe just thinking maybe it's a bit too much of a risk. Because there's other things that could come into play, like Fury could get injured, he could get injured and could be out for 6 months, and that's not going to be good for anybody. It's not going to be good for AJ. It's not going to be good for Wilder. Maybe they do think there's a bit of a case there where they could actually get either a payout or they could actually force their hand and get a third fight.
The tricky thing is, I mean, what they're saying now is that I think there's some legal stuff going on in the background. They're waiting for the Joshua fight. And if Joshua wins, it will be right, well, we want to fight Joshua next. And then they'll have to review this third fight. But the thing is if they go into a kind of a Joshua fight with Fury in May or June, Fury hasn't boxed in nearly a year and a half.
Yeah.
Not sure they'd want to go in with that.
I don't know. I think they'd probably take that. I think if Fury doesn't need to fight Deontay Wilder, I think Fury reverts back to his old ethos of, um, you know, he'll only fight for maximum reward and minimum risk. And I think, you know, whether you think that Deontay Wilder has a chance in that third fight, he does still have a puncher's chance, and he could still chin Fury. I mean, let's not forget he did drop him in the first fight. And I think if Fury can swerve, you know, fighting Wilder again and just go straight into the AJ double header for 2021, I think they do that. I think they call off all bets and go, look, let's just go straight into Joshua. And I think Fury would still back himself, even having a year and a half out of the ring rust. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing with Fury. I mean, he is a natural born, you know, boxer, fighter. You know, it's what he does. He's not, you know, he's been doing it since probably, I don't know, take a guess, 5 or 6. I think he holds out, or he maybe has a tick-over fight with an Ajit Kabayal or somebody like that in Jan Feb, and then go straight into the Joshua.
Well, that's the thing. It needs to be quite quick. It needs to be, if you want to fight in May or June with Joshua. Yeah. You know what I mean? But yeah, we'll see. I think unfortunately the Wilder court case may have some legs. Otherwise, why are they kind of delaying fight in December? But and then we've got Wilder coming up with his list of, I think it's 5 fighters that he wants to fight. What do you make of his 5? I think I don't know if he gave a priority order, but I know White was the first one he mentioned. But whether that's priority order, I'm not sure.
Well, this is the thing that bugs me as well. When you get fighters that reel off people that they want to fight, but they already know that they're tied up. I mean, everybody knows Dillian White's fighting Povetkin end of January, so that's not going to happen. That's just clout chasing. And who else was on there? Usyk, and obviously he's not going to do that. He's sitting and waiting for his WBO mandatory. Helenius, who I believe, if rumors are true, he's going to be having a rematch with Kawanaki, probably Jan Feb. Am I missing one? Andy Ruiz, who, you know, hasn't fought since his Joshua. Has he fought? Actually, he might have had a fight since Joshua's defeat. Has he? He hasn't.
No, he was meant to. Got pulled
But
out.
that'd be a year out of the. I mean, what does, you know, Andy Ruiz out the ring for a year look like in the ring? Probably not a great. Yeah. But this is the thing. Andy Ruiz has got a name now because he's got Joshua's, you know, scalp, even though he lost the rematch. And if Wilder knocks Ruiz out in 2 or 3 rounds, then it's almost like everybody's talking about him again. And that's actually, I would actually say, out the names that they've mentioned, Ruiz is probably the most plausible and realistic because they're in the same camp. Ruiz will see it as a great opportunity to take out a former world champion and put himself back in the mix. I think that will probably, if Wilder doesn't fight Fury next in the 3rd fight, I think it's probably going to be Andy Ruiz then, isn't it? Or somebody really kind of low level, tier 3, tier 4.
Yeah, I think. I mean, part of me's glad to hear him talk like this because, you know, there were some people saying, "Oh, he's just going to disappear and no one going to hear from him again. And he'll retire." It almost suggests that he's still game to carry on. So that's kind of good because I still think we need him in the division.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm the same with you in terms of, you know, a lot of the names he mentioned just can't happen, and you know, they've been calling him out in the past, and he's not really wanted any of it, and now, you know, his roles reversed kind of thing. Helenius is an interesting one because it's a bit random. I suppose the Kalnagi win does put him higher up. I think we all think of Helenius as kind of an average fighter, a bit higher than Gatekeeper, but not a big name. Kalnagi was thought quite high of in America, and if he knocked him out, so suddenly Helenius is probably seen as quite a big name compared to how we see him, because we just see him getting, you know, beaten up most of the time. He's had the wins, but I think he's got Chisora, doesn't he? Isn't he beaten Chisora?
Helenius, yeah, I think he got did he get like a dodgy points win against Chisora?
I think it was quite dodgy, yeah.
I remember when he was coming out, a lot of people were talking about him as the Nordic Klitschko. He was going to be, you know, the next big thing, and then and then he lost a couple of losses, but yeah.
So that might be why he's appearing on the list, or that he's going to fight him. But I think Helenius is a bit dangerous for him for his next fight. You know, I think he needs to fight. So, if he's not going to fight Fury, it's a tricky one really, because I think if he gets battered off Fury again, it's going to be hard for him to actually come back and fight again. Whereas he could play it quite clever and fight not someone of big note, risk averse, and step it up again. And I'm sure the belts are going to become free again at the end of next year. Some belts are going to free up, even if Wilder and Fury fight. Joshua and Fury have their 2 fights. I think the first fight could be for all the belts, and then the next 2, WBC would go one way, and I think the WBO might go off as well.
Why do you think the WBC will come free?
I think it will hang around for one fight, but how long is it since the mandatory's been for? I mean, White's been mandatory for God knows how long. I know he lost it,
right?
And
okay.
It's been a long.
So if Maurizio Sullivan calls it next year, then Fury will drop it and then go into a rematch with Joshua.
I think at that point, yeah. I mean, I think whoever wins that initial fight probably will have all the belts, and then 2 of those sanctioning bodies may call the mandatories, and I think it'll be the WBO for Usyk and the WBC for Povetkin White winner, and obviously someone else. Now it could be Dubois and Usyk, which would be a good one, or Tyson Usyk, and it could be White and someone else.
Wilder.
And well, if Wilder can get himself 2 decent wins, it could well be Wilder, and then you'd give him a good chance against White, and he's back in the game.
Yeah, it's a good point. I hadn't thought about it like that. I think with and let's not forget, I mean, Bermane Stiverne he lost the WBC title because it was a vacant title, wasn't it? Bermane Stiverne won a vacant title after Vitaly Klitschko retired, and then Wilder beat Bermane Stiverne, which was Wilder's first fight going the distance, and then he was world champion. And then Wilder he went on a terrible run of names like Chris Arreola and people like then Bermane Stiverne was then back in as the mandatory challenger for the WBC. It was scandalous.
I think he fought once, Stiverne, against some bin man, and then was suddenly back in.
Yeah, so I mean, if they did that for him, they could easily do that for Wilder. If he strings 1 or 2.
Yeah, they do what they want. They do what they want. But yeah, I would see he doesn't need many big wins to then become the mandatory to fight, Povetkin or White at the end of the year. I think like the winner of that in January will probably have to either not be active in the summer or have a kind of a tick over ready for, say the Joshua Fury fight is in like early June. It'll be right the day after. Are you willing to fight White? No, we've got a rematch. Right, White, you're going to fight so and so for the belt.
Yeah.
And to be fair, at that point, everyone will see that person as the undisputed champion anyway, and the second fight will still be bigger than trying to defend one of the belts against someone else.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I think and then the winner, if it is whoever wins the WBC, and if it Usyk and because that could be quite good. You'd have Joshua and Fury fight twice. The winner of that could then go and get the belt off either the Wilder or White or Dubois and Usyk. They'd be great fights.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of fun to be had, I think, for the next 2 or 3 years. It does feel like we need some new blood, though, in the heavyweight division. But just staying on Wilder for a minute, I mean, Wilder's knockout defeat to Fury, I do wonder what kind of a Deontay Wilder fighter will have in his next fight, even if it is just a tick-over fight, because that was his first kind of real defeat. Obviously, he got the draw. I mean, a lot of people thought that Fury did beat him in that first fight, but it was almost an embarrassment, how badly he got beat. And I just wonder whether the mystique of Deontay Wilder and his right hand, what kind of a personality, because he definitely doesn't look great mentally. Some of the stuff that he's coming out with and all the excuses, and he's clearly rocked his confidence. And I do think a defeat, it does change a fighter, and I just wonder what kind of a mental mental strength is just so big in boxing. I mean, look at what Lennox Lewis coming back from his defeats. He came back as a champion and he ruled again. I just don't know whether Deontay Wilder has that same kind of mental capacity or that mental strength to come back. Because, I mean, we haven't really heard anything from him other than excuses, and I just wonder what kind of strength we have left.
It depends. It depends what you're expecting from him. I mean, for me, I expect him to fight not a very good fighter next. Someone with bugger all head movement and not great punch resistance and not much of a threat. And I think even then he'll go in quite confident and probably floor the person in the first 3 rounds. And then he'll have to fight someone of a bit more note, but by then he might have got a bit more confidence back. And WBC will probably then put him number 1 next to the winner of, Kin and White. I mean, the other option is that he fights Andy Ruiz on PBC. They both have a fight at the beginning of next year to get over their defeats, and then they go for it. And the winner of that fights for the WBC. But
I'll tell you what, that's a great fight. If Ruiz Wilder does happen, I'd be tuning in for that. That would be an interesting fight, because Ruiz is a nightmare for Wilder, by the way.
I'd back Ruiz.
Would you?
Yeah, for 2 reasons. 1, his style of attack is bad for Wilder, and 2, he can take a punch.
You can take a punch. Well, you can take a punch. Yeah, he's got a good chin, and he's got fast hands. If he gets on the inside of Wilder and backs him up, But then you just don't know what kind of Ruiz is going to turn up. I mean, if he's been out of the ring and he's out of shape.
No, and it can't. That's why it can't be neither of theirs first fight back. This has got to be maybe a summer fight after they've had a fight in February against whoever.
Yeah.
2 last little things on time. I know you didn't want to discuss this one, so we'll keep it really quick. And that's the Farr Parker fight's been pushed back. I think Farr doesn't seem that well. He's got problems with his iron blood count and stuff, and he's had operations in the past, so not sure if that will end up happening at all.
Okay.
And again, a bit more of a thing for here in the UK, the Pulev fights on pay-per-view here, Joshua Pulev, and the price is 25 quid. Caused a bit of a stink because it's usually 20 quid. Last time against Ruiz rematch, it was 25 quid. And they kind of said, well, it's a one-off, it's a huge fight, rematch, all the belt, well, not all the belts, but most of the belts.
Yeah.
But they're at the same price. So they've come under a bit of criticism, but you kind of get it in a way with no crowd, and there's not been tons of pay-per-view on Sky this year. Now that, I think this will be the 3rd one, which is still light. I know mainly because of the pandemic, but the card's shaping up quite good.
Is it? Who's on the card so far? I know Akoli's on there, and is it Glowacki?
Yeah. So that's support. That's for one of the world titles. Don't know which federation. And that's a weird. I mean, Coley's not fought for ages.
Yeah,
that's a big thing to go into. And then you've got Fury's fighting. Who's he fighting now?
Fury's fighting Marius Wack, and Martin Coley is fighting Sergei Kuzmin, I believe.
Kuzmin. Was it the other way around?
No, I think that's it. Yeah. I'll have a quick check on BoxRec. Is there any other ones you can think of that are on that?
No, I mean there's going to be 7 fights on this one, so more than what we've seen before. And apparently, they have mentioned someone else actually. Can't remember who it was, but not someone well known. But he did say there'll probably be another heavyweight fight on there.
And is there no crowd?
They're appealing to try and get 1,000 in.
Okay.
I mean, it does really take from the show. I mean, last night was a great little Saturday night show, and the crowd would have loved it if they were there.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the crowd to come back. I think for a viewer at home, it makes the viewing at home better when there's a crowd there. And I love going to the boxing as well, so I really want the crowd coming back.
Yeah, I was right. Yeah, so it's Akoli Glowacki is top of the bill. That's for the WBO title. cruiserweight. Fury is fighting Mariusz Wach, which is really kind of a tick over. And then Martin Bakole against Sergei Kuzmin, which is actually a really good fight. That's a 50-50 fight.
They were going to fight. They were going to fight on Dillian Whyte, Povetkin, weren't they?
Fury and Bakole.
No, Bakole and Kuzmin. That fight was done for that.
Bakole Kuzmin. Oh yeah, didn't one of them get? One of them wasn't very well, I think. Because I know they were trying to do Fury against Dave Allen, weren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's shaping up quite good. I mean, that Fury fight's got 12 rounds written all over it because Fury can't punch that hard.
I don't know that. He did to some extent.
Wach's probably still got the best chin in boxing.
Who has? Wach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised he's still kind of like lingering around, isn't he? I don't know what's actually happening with Hughie Fury. I mean, where do they kind of, because he's lost to Povetkin, Joseph Parker, and who else? I'm pretty sure that's maybe the two.
No, I mean, he's still very young, isn't he? He's like 24, 25. Seems to have been around for ages.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's like he doesn't get, he doesn't get a beating, but he's been in with some great fighters, isn't he? You know, like you say, Povetkin, Pulev, Parker. He's just fallen a bit short. I mean, that Pulev was an interesting one because he obviously went in there a bit injured with that cut and it opened up and that changed the fight a bit. But yeah, I don't know. He just doesn't. He's never been quite top level. But for Matchroom, he's going to do a job, which he's doing this is to be on an undercard.
Yeah. But I don't think Fury sees himself as that. I think they're obviously looking to see if they can maneuver into a world title position. But here's a question for you: would you have Hughie
possibly?
Would you have Hughie Fury in your top 10 at the moment?
Heavyweights?
Yeah. No.
No,
I don't think I would. No.
I don't think he hits hard enough.
Definitely got skills. Got great footwork, but I think he's quite small for a heavyweight as well. And when he not having that knockout punch, it's struggled to see where he kind of fits in that kind of heavyweight scene. But interesting. All right, cool. Is that it? Have we got any other big news? Anything else you wanted to cover?
No, that's mainly it. We've been doing half an hour, so
okay. What about? I was thinking about this. Right, next week, just whilst we're on the heavyweights, what do you think about doing either a top 10 heavyweights or a pound for pound top 10 list next week?
Do top 10 heavyweights.
Top 10 heavyweights for next week. All right.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Do a video on that.
Okay. Thanks again for listening. Please like and subscribe and share the videos. All right. Take care.